It's the mid-1990s. The British music scene is a riot. Oasis is everywhere. Britpop rules the airwaves. And the clubs? They're sweat-soaked cathedrals of strobe light and sound. But in the shadows of mainstream pop, something more primal is brewing. A storm of breakbeats, bass lines and rebellion. It doesn't care about melody. It's about energy, chaos, defiance. And then he appears, like a shockwave through a speaker. Spiked hair, wild eyes, snarling into the camera, shirtless, stomping, screaming. This is not your average pop star, but behind the fire, behind the fury, was a man searching for escape from the world and from himself, a roofer turned rave dancer, a punk frontman who never set out to sing, a quiet soul trapped in a storm of sound, the face of the Prodigy, the voice of a generation. Keith Charles Flint arrives at Whipps Cross Hospital, East London. His parents, Raymond and Patricia Flint, are waiting to meet their first child. Raymond works as a roofer, hands toughened by years spent on rooftops battling the elements. Patricia is a nurse, caring and practical, yet carrying the quiet hopes and fears every new mother knows. This is Keith's first breath in a world that's about to shape him in ways no one could guess. The family soon moves from the bustling streets of Redbridge to the quieter suburbs of Essex. It's a fresh start, but the calm surface hides a restlessness growing beneath. For young Keith, the shift is more than geography. It's a step into a life where fitting in feels impossible. School feels like a foreign country. The lessons don't come easy. Letters blur and dance on the page. Dyslexia makes reading a daily struggle. The classroom isn't a place of discovery. Teachers don't understand his energy, his quicksilver mind, his refusal to stay still. Hyperactivity runs through his veins, making him twitch, fidget, and burst with nervous energy. He's not a troublemaker by choice, but the system labels him that way. Every reprimand, every sideways glance from classmates piles on the weight of feeling like an outsider. At home, things aren't much easier. A family trying to keep it together. But tension and frustration often fill the air. Keith doesn't have the words to explain the storm inside him, so he finds escape elsewhere. Music is a secret refuge. The pounding bass, the crashing drums speak to him where words fail. Motorbikes offer freedom like nothing else. The roar of an engine, the rush of speed, the wind tearing past. This is where he feels alive, untouchable, free. By his teenage years, the frustration of school and home has settled into a fierce determination. When he leaves school, he doesn't fade into the background. Instead, he takes to the rooftops like his father, becoming a roofer himself, hands working hard, body moving fast. But it's the weekends that define him. The underground clubs, the rave scene, just bubbling up in Essex. Here, Keith finds his tribe. Surrounded by flashing lights and pounding rhythms, he is no longer the outsider. A wild spirit fueled by music, adrenaline, and rebellion. This restless energy, this refusal to be tamed or ignored, it is the beginning of Keith Flint. Not yet a legend, but already something unstoppable. It's 1989, and the world is changing. Acid house is sweeping through the UK, a revolution bubbling under the surface. Thatcher's Britain is grey and tired, but in dimly lit clubs and open fields, the youth are finding colour. In the music, the movement, the madness. Rave culture is exploding, and Essex is right in the thick of it. Keith Flint is in his element. He's been living for this. The throb of the bass, the strobe lights cutting across sweat-soaked bodies, the total freedom of it all. The clubs are illegal, the parties unregulated. But that's what makes them feel real. It's the first place where Keith doesn't just exist, he belongs. In a small club in Braintree, he hears something different, something that doesn't just move. It punches. It's raw, aggressive, rhythm-heavy. It cuts through the haze of the dance floor like a lightning strike. He hunts down the guy responsible, a quiet, serious-faced DJ named Liam Howlett. "You're the DJ," Keith says, sweat, dripping, eyes lit up. "Your music's insane. Let's do something." This moment, seemingly offhand, born from adrenaline and instinct, becomes the spark. Liam is the producer, the machine mind. Keith is the raw energy, the physical force. He brings in his mate Leroy Thornhill, tall, smooth, all long limbs and swagger, and a female dancer, Sharky, who quickly fades out but helped build the first shape of something new. They call themselves the Prodigy, named after Liam's old Moog Prodigy synthesizer. They're not a band, not in the traditional sense, they're a storm. Dancers, beats, breakneck BPMs and attitude. Keith isn't on the mic, not yet. At this point he's a dancer, but what a dancer. He's not doing choreography. He's not polished. He moves like he's been possessed, like the music is fighting its way out of his body. He becomes impossible to ignore, hair bleached, energy manic, body like a coiled spring. The underground becomes visible. Charlie hits the charts. A rave track built around a bizarre old public information cartoon. It's cheeky, chaotic, and completely infectious. The media tries to mock it, calling it childish. But the kids, they lose their minds. The Prodigy go from warehouse legends to national controversy. Every track hits harder. Every show goes wilder. They're not just playing music, they're dragging rave into the mainstream, kicking and screaming. And Keith is becoming something more. He's not just part of the show, he is the show. Spiked hair like devil horns, eyes wide, locked onto the crowd like a predator. Shirtless, wild, sweating out everything he has ever been told to suppress. He isn't performing, he's transforming. In real time, in front of thousands. And the beautiful irony? He still doesn't speak into a microphone. But that's coming, soon. For now, the Prodigy is rising. From illegal fields to sold-out clubs, from a name whispered in rave circles to a headline act. And at the centre of it all is Keith, the boy who never fit in, becoming the face of a movement that never wanted to follow the rules. The world doesn't know it yet, but something seismic is about to happen. Keith Flint stands in a studio, eyes burning, fists clenched. Liam Howlett cues the track. It's heavy, relentless, an industrial throb laced with menace. Keith steps up to the mic, not to dance, not to stomp, but to speak, to snarl. And the words that come out aren't just lyrics. They're a declaration of war. I'm the trouble starter, punkin' instigator. This is Firestarter, Keith's first time on vocals. And it sounds like nothing else. It's not singing, it's not rapping, it's not even shouting. It's something animal, raw, visceral. A guttural growl from a place deeper than anger. This is the voice of every outsider who was ever laughed at, excluded, pushed down and told to behave. Keith isn't asking permission, he's breaking in. And when the music video drops, all hell breaks loose. There he is, blacked out eyes, spiked devil horns, shirtless and twitching like he's being electrocuted from the inside out. He's filmed in grainy, frenetic close-up inside a tunnel, like a creature that's just burst out of the underworld. Parents complain, politicians frown, schools try to ban it. Teenagers, they worship him. Keith becomes the face of rebellion, not the polished, market-friendly kind. This is real, terrifying, magnetic. He's not just part of youth culture now. He is youth culture, the kind your mum warns you about, and it doesn't stop. Next comes Breathe, same fire but colder, smarter. Keith and fellow vocalist Maxim trading lines like back alley gladiators. It's hypnotic, threatening, impossible to look away from. Keith's presence is growing, more confident, more unhinged, more essential. Then Smack My Bitch Up. The controversy is instant, global, banned by radio stations, censored on TV. The video, a first-person descent into sex, drugs and violence, ends with a twist no one sees coming. It shocks people, offends people, changes the rules, and still the Prodigy sell millions. Stadiums, festivals, top of the charts, front pages. Keith is no longer just part of the act. He's its soul, its symbol. A rave spirit in a punk body. A kid who could barely sit still in class, now conducting chaos in front of 50,000 screaming fans. But fame, it has weight. the pressure starts creeping in. Expectations build. Interviews pile up, magazine covers, screaming headlines, all with that face, that look. It becomes harder to tell where the character ends and the man begins. A fire starter, an instigator. But when you spend your life being the spark, eventually something starts to burn. It is 1997, and the fat of the land is everywhere. The Prodigy are no longer a fringe act, they are the sound of the moment. Their music blasts from cars, clubs, bedrooms. From MTV to muddy festival fields, their chaos has become culture. Keith Flint, once just a lad from Essex who danced in the background, is now unavoidable, iconic, staring out from magazine covers with inked skin, wild eyes, and that impossible hair, a symbol of defiance. But inside, something is shifting, something subtle, unseen. Success doesn't soothe Keith. If anything, it unsettles him. In public, he's still fire and fury, eyes rolling back, limbs jerking like a man possessed. But behind the curtain, he's quieter, withdrawn, exhausted. The performance, once a release, starts to feel like a costume he can't take off. Then comes the airline ban. Not because of the music, not because of the lyrics, because of him. Too unpredictable, too volatile, too much of a risk to share a cabin with other passengers. No official diagnosis, no kindness, no understanding, just rejection. He's labelled disruptive, dangerous, unstable. But this isn't about rockstar ego. This is about something deeper, something Keith can't quite name yet. This is anxiety, burnout, depression. This is mental health finally rising to the surface after years of being buried under strobes and screams. And he's not ready for it. None of them are. He doesn't know how to ask for help, doesn't know how to stop the show, so he withdraws. For the next album, always outnumbered, never outgunned, he barely shows up. Physically, emotionally, creatively. His absence is everywhere. Liam builds the record alone, surrounded by machines and silence. The band feels distant, the brotherhood strained. Something's broken and no one quite knows how to fix it. Keith tries to disappear, but even off stage he's being watched, chased by fame, haunted by the ghost of the persona he created. And then, unexpectedly, he finds something solid to hold on to. Her name is Mayumi Kai, a DJ, a model, Japanese, poised completely outside his chaotic world. She doesn't flinch at the tattoos or the reputation. She's not chasing Keith Flint, the fire starter. She's meeting Keith, the man, awkward, soft-spoken, funny, in a dry, self-deprecating way. Still full of energy, but not always sure where to place it. With Mayumi, things change. Keith begins spending time in Japan, long stretches away from the UK, from the scene, from the noise. Tokyo is a paradox. Vast, loud, alive, yet somehow it offers peace. He walks the neon streets in quiet anonymity. Nobody stares. Nobody expects a performance. For once he's just a man, a husband, a wanderer. And on the racetrack he finds another version of himself. Motorbike racing becomes his discipline, his meditation. The engine thrumming beneath him, the wind battering his chest, the world blurring around the edges. It's focus, it's danger, it's life. There are no encores here, no fans. Just the present moment, clean and unforgiving. For a while it holds. There's laughter again, a slower rhythm. Marriage, cooking, music in the background, not in the spotlight. A man finally making peace with stillness. But mental health doesn't punch in and out like a job. It lingers. It waits. And even in Japan, even in love, there are days when the weight returns, days when the silence gets too loud. Keith never stops being Keith, but the fire, once so liberating, now flickers in a different way. Sometimes warm, sometimes dangerous, and deep inside, under it all, something unresolved keeps whispering, because no matter how fast you ride, no matter how far you run, some parts of you catch up eventually. The fire never truly goes out. Even when it dims, even when Keith Flint steps away from the spotlight, it waits, flickering just beneath the surface. In the late 2000s, that fire roars back to life. Invaders Must Die drops in 2009. It's loud, jagged, unapologetic. A thunderous reminder that the Prodigy aren't done. Not even close. Keith is back on stage, his body still moving, like it's plugged straight into the mains. The hair, the eyes, the stomp, it's all still there. But something's shifted. This isn't youth-fueled chaos anymore. This is grit. This is resilience. This is a man throwing everything he has into every single second. On stage, Keith is still electric, a whirlwind. Every show, he gives himself fully. Blood, sweat, screams. Fans watch him sprint across massive stages like a man half his age, defying time, defying pain, defying everything that says he should slow down. But off stage, it's different. The adrenaline fades, the lights dim, the silence returns. Keith talks openly now, at least to friends, about the darkness, about the low days, about depression. The word itself, heavy and slow, not made for someone like him, who always seemed to move at double speed. But mental health doesn't care how famous you are, or how loud the music gets. He still races, still smiles, still cracks jokes in his raw, disarming Essex twang. But inside, the battles continue, quiet, relentless, invisible to most. 2015 brings The Day Is My Enemy. It's aggressive, furious, defiant, a Prodigy record through and through. The Firestarter's flame hasn't dimmed, not in the studio, not on the stage, but in private moments, the weight begins to show. The pressure of being Keith Flint grows heavier with time. He hides it well, too well. March 4th, 2019, news breaks. Keith Flint has died, suicide. Age 49, the world stops. Keith had hung himself in his house in Essex, alone, not knowing just how truly loved he was. Shock ripples through the music scene, through the fan base, through everyone who ever shouted "Breathe with me" from a dance floor in their youth. It doesn't make sense. Not to them, not at first, because the man on stage always looked invincible, like he could punch through the sky. But he wasn't invincible. He was human. A deeply feeling man who spent his life expressing everything he couldn't say through movement, sound, and fury. Tributes pour in from every corner of music and culture. He did what all true artists do. He made his mark. He frightened your mums and dads in the best way possible. That was Keith Flint, a force of nature who never asked permission, never softened, never settled. But behind the snarling face, behind the Firestarter's wild eyes, there was kindness, a generosity that some only glimpsed when the crowds faded and the music quieted. James Blunt, who knew Keith away from the stage, remembers a man who welcomed him when few others would. A giant not just in stature, but in heart. Someone who saw the person, not the reputation. Keith Flint wasn't just a symbol of rebellion or a voice of a generation. He was a man who lived fiercely, loved deeply, and left a legacy that burns on. In the roar of the music, in the echo of the crowds, in every reckless beat and shouted scream, Keith still moves, still snarls, still starts fires. And for all who knew him, and all who never met him but felt his energy, that fire will never go out.